वन्दे गुरुपदद्वन्द्वम् अवाङ्मनसगोचरम् रक्तशुक्लप्रभामिश्रम् अतर्क्यं त्रैपुरम् अहः विशुद्धिज्ञानदेहाय त्रिवेदी दिव्यचक्षुषे श्रेयः प्राप्तिनिमित्ताय नमः सोमार्धधारिणे नमो यामिनीनाथरेखालङ्कृतकुन्तलाम् भवानीं भवसन्तापनिर्वापण सुधानदीम्।
So today we will spend some time to understand the various schools that comes under the Kashmir Shaivism. Now Kashmir Shaivism is not the name by which the system referred to itself. So there are several, but the most popular name was either Trika Siddhanta or Paramādvaita or Shankaradvaita Vada. So these are the names by which the earlier acharyas referred to the system as a whole. And the reason for the popularity of the word Kashmir Shaivism is the school of thought which was prevalent in many parts of India got restricted to that particular geographical. Not only that, the major contributions also came from the region of Kashmir. So these are two important reasons by which we now refer to this system as Kashmir Shaivism. So once again, let me start with the order of dissemination of knowledge or the transmission of the knowledge. It is important for us to know all this because I believe that today when we speak of Kashmir Shaivism, a lot of emphasis is on the philosophy part. But it is also important to know the lineage through which this particular school of thought developed. Because in order to maintain the integrity of the purity of the thoughts, to maintain what we can call as the individuality of the system, it is important to know the origins of the system. So going by that Shastric or the agamic references, we come across this order by which this agamic wisdom was passed on, right from Parashiva through Parashakti, who is the Paravak, through Anashrita Shiva, then the Anatha Bhattaraka, then it comes to Ananta Bhattaraka, then Vyapisha Shiva, then Sadakhya Sadashiva, then through the Mantreshwaras. So there are several Mantreshwaras such as Anantesha, Nidanesha, etc. Then it comes to Sri Kantha Rudra. Now, if we recall in the previous session, we saw how Sri Kantha Rudra passes this to Durvasa, and in the Kali Yuga, Durvasa is responsible for the propagation of the Shaiva Siddhanta or the Shaiva Agamas in this current Yuga. But in the previous Yugas, Sri Kantha Rudra had passed it on to other sages such as Nandi, Skanda, etc. So this is the divine order given in the textual sources. And in the Kali Yuga, like we saw in the previous session, Sri Kantha Rudra or Sri Kantha Shiva imparts this to Durvasa Rishi. So Durvasa Rishi is a very, very important persona when it comes to the Shaiva Agama systems per se. And there are very many temples which are associated even now with Durvasa. And most of these temples which are directly established by Durvasa are founded on the Trika system. So this is a very important aspect to know. Now, this is also the reason why I say that it is important to know the lineage. Say, for example, the temples, at least in the south, as much as I know, there are temples in Chidambaram. There is a temple in Tiruvarur, the temple in Kanchipuram, the Kamakshi. All the three have Durvasa very closely associated with the way the worships are carried out. And the commonality is that the foundational philosophy for these temples, when they were established, is based on the Pratyabhijna or the Trika system. Okay. So coming to so when Durvasa receives this information, this sacred knowledge from Srikantha Rudra, he passes it on at the Bhairavagamas. He passes that the Advaita Agamas, which are known as the Bhairavagamas, to Trambaka. And Trambaka settles in Kashmir. So that is how Kashmir comes into picture for the first time as far as the entire system is considered. And from there, 29th in line is Somananda, a human teacher whom we can know through the writings of Acharya Abhinavagupta, who wrote Shiva Drishti. Okay, so this is the order of propagation of the entire system as a whole. Now, we will be seeing different schools, at least four major schools within this Kashmir Shaivism, and each has its own individual Guru Parampara, right? So, if we have to give one point description of what Kashmir Shaivism is, we can say that Kashmir Shaivism has a common thread that which believes that there is only supreme consciousness, which we call it as Chit, as the existing principle, and it is this Chit or the consciousness that manifests itself into the world of reality that we are experiencing. So the world or the reality that we are experiencing is very real because it is founded or it has as its substratum the Chidvastu or pure consciousness itself. It is not illusion as held by the other school of Advaitic thought, which is the Shankara's Advaitic thought. So this is one major area of difference between the two schools. There are several, but just the foundational difference is this. Then another part is that the entire Kashmir Shaivism or the schools of Kashmir Shaivism, they all belong to the Agama. Therefore, they are all based on the Diksha. So Diksha becomes the most important element, okay, which helps a person to qualify to receive this information in a proper manner. So this Diksha is nothing but the flow of the grace of Shiva, which we call as Shaktipata. Okay, Patanam means the fall. Okay, so the process by which the grace of Shiva falls upon the recipient. So, since it happens through the Guru Parampara, okay, it is important once again to know the Guru Parampara, which is responsible for this transmission of the Rudra Shakti Anugraha, okay, or Shaktipata. So, when Durvasa received the Agamas, the Bheda, and the Abheda, that is the dualistic, the qualified non-dualistic, and the non-dualistic Agamas, he taught these three systems to three of his Manasa Putras or mind-born sons. To Trembakanatha, he teaches all the Bhairava Shastras or the non-dualistic Agamas. To Amardakanatha, he teaches all the Dvaita Shastras. And to Srinatha, or he teaches the Bheda okay, the Rudra Agamas. So this is how it is described. Apart from this, he also brought forth a Manasa Putri, a daughter, who is called as Ardhatryambaka. Okay, so when it comes to the Bhairava Shastra, the non-dualistic, we have Trembakanatha and Ardhatryambaka. But Ardhatryambaka being, we do not have more details about Ardhatryambaka and the lineage that follows Ardhatryambaka. Okay, so the other two who received the Shaiva Shastras, they established the different mathas. So they are called as Mathikas. Okay, so the concept of the matha, okay, as the spiritual center for propagation of philosophical thought is contribution of the Shaiva Agamas. So this is something very, very original. The concept of Pitha, the concept of Matha, these are original Shaiva Agamic thoughts. And we have references to this entire tradition in several texts. One that I have shown on the screen is from the Trika Rahasya Prakriya. Okay. So, while speaking about the transmission from Trembakanatha to others, there were 14 generations after Trembakanatha, wherein the sons were all Manasa Putras, not born because of a conjugal union, but they were mind born. But the 15th generation, okay, he married and a son was born. He was called as Sangamaditya, who settled in Kashmir. And Sangamaditya, son was Varshaditya, his son was Arunaditya, Ananda, and Somanandanatha. So up till Somanandanatha, we have the transmission of this knowledge from father to son. Before Sangamaditya, it was all Manasa Putras. Okay, so here after Sangamaditya, it was father to son born out of a conjugal union. After Somanandanatha, there is a shift. So the legacy of Guru-Shishya Parampara starts with Somanandanatha. So Somanandanatha, who authored Shiva Drishti, a very important text, okay, he taught Utpalacharya or Utpaladeva. Utpaladeva taught Lakshmanagupta, who taught Acharya Abhinavagupta. So from Somanandanatha, we have the tradition of Guru Shishya, okay, a teacher and a disciple. So we have three types of transmission that we come across through the Manasa Putras, through father and son, and from the third set, which is the Guru and the Shishya Bhav. So there are four major schools which comes under the Kashmir Shaivism or the Trika, which is Kaula, Pratyabhijna, Krama, and Spanda. The order, there is nothing special about the order. I just put the order as such. So the founding figure of Kaula is considered to be Somanandanatha. So is the Pratyabhijna as well. The focus is more on Jnana. Okay. Whereas the other two, that is the Krama, which is attributed to Shivanandanatha, and Spanda, which is attributed to Vasugupta, the focus is more on the yoga side. We will be seeing each of these schools with little details, though it's not the right forum with 1 hour, 1.5 hours to know more about all the schools, because each school has its own distinct set of literature and its own way of transmission. So we'll just try to get an overarching view about these schools in the next few minutes. So we know the Shreyas, okay, or the responsibility of bringing all the schools together and trying to give a unified vision of all these schools goes to Acharya Abhinavagupta, because he learned from the various Guru Paramparas. He integrated these four Shaiva schools And after Acharya Abhinavagupta, we no longer refer to these individual schools individually, but collectively as the Trika Siddhanta. So that is one of the greatest contributions of Acharya Abhinavagupta, who he gave a unified vision. So coming back to the Diksha, so Acharya says that it is very important to receive the Diksha in a proper parampara, because through the parampara, a guru is able to spontaneously awaken, okay, the consciousness, or not consciousness, awaken the quest of the disciple. So normally it happens through three ways. This awakening happens through three possible ways. It happens by oneself, in the sense without any human or any other intervention, when there is a direct Shaktipata that happens as a result of the Anugraha of Shiva. This is the rare of the rare cases. Okay, and uh, we cannot take recourse to this, obviously, because one has to be a sadhaka of a very high order in order to receive this particular grace. So they are treated as exceptions. There is a second, through the reading of the scriptures. This also can happen, but the problem is that the scriptures are all very cryptic in nature. So without being taught by a qualified teacher, it is very, very hard. So theoretically, number one and two exist. It has happened in a few cases, but that is very rare. It is the third, that is through a proper guru or through a proper spiritually awakened master, that the Diksha process becomes complete and the Anugraha, okay, flows into the disciple, therefore qualifying him, okay, in the quest of this inner awakening. So Acharya says, when there is a question, why should the teachers and text exist if Shiva can, by his free will, uh, will that the grace should descend upon anyone? He gives a very pragmatic reply. He says, it is because it is Shiva's wish. Okay, so there is no way you can question why someone receives the grace in one particular manner. It can only be guessed that he would have done severe sadhanas in previous so many janmas to become qualified enough for that. But otherwise, Shiva himself manifests as both the teacher as well as the Shastra. So the manifestation of Shiva as Shastra was something that we saw in the first slide, where right from Parashiva, Parashakti as a Paravak, okay, and Anatha, Ananta, and other. So that is the manifestation of grace through the text. And subsequent slides, we saw the manifestation of Shiva, okay, as a Guru. Okay, so both ways, it is the Shiva's wish that he willed his Anugraha to flow that particular way. And also the Shastra recognizes two types of gurus. One is the one who is trained through lineage like this, a Guru-Shishya Parampara. And there is also a Pratibha Guru, okay, who has one who has had the direct initiation. So the problem with Pratibha Guru is not with the Guru per se, but for the Shishya is, how does he know whether the Guru is a Pratibha Guru or not? So it is a very tough question to answer. So normally, going through an initiated guru is considered to be a safe path as far as the sadhaka is concerned. And how the Shaktipata works, you can actually this arrow mark should be pointing upwards, the yogyata. If the person has the yogyata, has the necessary qualification, Sakala means a jiva, okay, like all of us, pashus. So if the Pashu has acquired Yogyata, then the Shaktipata takes place. If the and that leads to Jignasa. Jignasa means a desire to know, desire to progress. So he starts reading, he starts practicing. And it results in okay, there also it's a error in the spelling. It is Diksha. Dikshita it is actually. So through the process of Diksha, he becomes a Dikshita. And when he becomes a Dikshita and practices, the Ajnana is removed and the Mantra Virya. Mantra Virya is knowing the essence of the mantra, which is nothing but the unity of the mantra, the person who is practicing the mantra, and the Devata to be one entity. So that is Mantra Virya. So the Ajnana is removed and the Mantra Virya is understood, leading the Diksha to liberation. Now, this liberation can happen when he is living or when he is about to shed this body, okay, as a result of the end of the prarabdha karma. So this can happen, and there is something called nirvana diksha, and nirvana diksha is considered to be the highest form of diksha, which directly bestows liberation when given by the most qualified master. So quickly, let us go through the schools. Today we plan to cover 3. Let us see if we can do that. We start with Krama, the very most influential schools apart from Pratyabhijna. So Krama means sequence, a progression. So Krama as a system emphasizes progressive realization. So this is a path of Shaktopaya, okay, wherein so both Krama and the Kula, they are originally they were Shakti oriented, okay. So there is a lot of emphasis on certain activities accompanied by a set of bhavana. Bhavana is a kind of contemplative thought which accompanies the activities, not mere ritual. So it is a rite accompanied with a contemplative thought. So that leads progressively one to acquire the wisdom about himself. So the realization unfolds in successive stages. So since it emphasizes on this succession, okay, this graded path to liberation, it was called as a Krama school. So in the Krama, the highest divinity is known by the name Kali or Kala Sankarshini. Now, Kali or Kala Sankarshini, in essence, is nothing but the chit or the pure consciousness that we earlier referred to. So, Kala Sankarshini in this system is the aspect of pure consciousness only. Okay, and Krama is called as Anuttara Naya. Naya means a path. Okay, and it originated in Kashmir, so which is also called as the Uttarapitha or the Odhyanapitha. There are other names by which the Krama school is referred later on. The most popular name is Mahanaya or Mahartha. So there is a text by name Mahartha Manjari. Okay, so Mahartha, Mahanaya, both these names refers to the Krama school. So what is Kala Sankarshini or Kali here? Comes from the Sanskrit root Kal. Okay, the Sanskrit root Kala means to throw, that is to project, to move or spread, to differentiate, count and differentiate, and also to create a kind of an sound as a result of vibration. So Kshepa, Gati, Sankhya, and Shabda. So these are the 4 meanings of the word color, And from this, the word Kali comes, referring to the supreme consciousness which projects the world. Therefore, the meaning Kshepa spreads in the sense there is not a single entity in this material world which is not pervaded by this consciousness. When it decides to limit itself, that limitation results in seeing one entity as multiple units. Only that underlying connectivity is missed out in a myopic vision, okay, of a Pashu. So the Sankhyanā artha of the Kala Dhatu is also explained this way. Vibrate is not the physical sense of vibration. This is very beautifully explained in a spandanam or vibration means. Okay, so all these four senses of Kal Dhatu is what is the Kali, and the Mahartha or the Krama school, like all the other schools, recognizes the Panchakrityas or the fivefold activities as the supreme identification of Shiva. That is, Shiva is known because he performs these five Krityas: Srishti, Sthiti, Samhara, Tirodhana, and Anugraha. Only thing, in the Krama, the five Krityas are named differently. They are not named as Srishti, Sthiti, Samhara, Bhasa or Anakya, or Tirodhana or Anugraha. They are named as Kshepa, Jnana, okay, Prasankhana, Gati, and Nada. So these are the Dhatu. Okay, from these five meanings of the Kal Dhatu, okay, the five cosmic functions, okay, or the Panchakrityas are explained in the Krama school. So Kali is also known as Matri Sadbhava or Kala Sankarshini. So in the form of worship, the ritualistic worship, the Kala Sankarshini assumes 12 manifestations or 12 forms of Kali. So this is very famously captured by Acharya Abhinavagupta in his Dvadasha Kali Stotra, wherein he describes the role and function of each of these Kalis. So if you, when we read those verses, it becomes very clear that these 12 are actually referring to 12 stages of cognitive process. So you can divide this 12 into sets of 3, and each is referring to the subject, the process of knowing, and the object. So there is an objective sphere which is covered by the first 4 Kalis, the process sphere, okay, the Pramana sphere, okay, which is covered by the next set of 4, and the subjective sphere which is covered by the next set of 4. So this is how the 12 or the Dvadasha Kalis are understood. So Srishti, Rakta, Sthitinasha, and Yamakali refer to the objective sphere of the cognitive process, whereas Samhara, Mrityu, Rudra, and Martanda Kali is the Pramana, okay, the process path, and the last 4, which is the Paramarka, Kalagni Rudra, Mahakala, and Mahabhairava, Chanda Ugra, Kali. These are the subjective spheres. So these Kalis are the various stages of cognitive process. So that is how Krama explains this. The sum total of all this is the Kala Sankarshini Kali. So it is giving a ritualistic face to a complex philosophical process. Some of the important texts or the key agamic texts of the Krama schools are Krama Sadbhava, Krama Siddhi, Brahmayamala, and Tantra Raja. One small information before we pass to the next school is The Krama was a very popular school of thought, not only in Kashmir but in Kerala also. Even now, there are 13 Kali temples in Kerala, each representing the 12 and the final, which is the Kala Sankarshni Kali. And texts were also written in the medieval around 11th, between 11th to 13th century from uh, Kerala, one from Tamil Nadu, okay, which speaks about the Krama system. The Krama Guru Parampara is like this. Shivanandanatha, he had three female disciples, Keyuravati, Madanika, and Kalyanika. Each Keyuravati had Sri Govindaraja, from whom Somananda, and from Somananda, Acharya Abhinavagupta receives the Krama initiation. Similarly, Madanika Devi, her disciple was Chakrabhanu and Udbhata, and once again from Udbhata also Acharya Abhinavagupta receives the Krama initiation. With regard to Kalyanika Devi, Sri Erakanatha was her disciple, but Erakanatha did not initiate any disciples. So we do not have any information about that particular form. Then comes the second school of thought, the Kula Marga. So Kula means a group or something in total. Okay, so this is also a Shakta path, wherein this Kula transcends the Shiva and the Prakasha and the Vimarsha aspect. So this is referring to that the Parashiva level, wherein it is transcending the manifestations. Okay, Shiva Shakti is something we speak of from the manifestation point of view. So Kula is something which is transcending the manifestation. Although it is called as a Akula. Whereas the entire materialistic creation, starting from Shiva onwards till the Prithvi, the 36th Tattva, comes under the Kula, which is the dynamic totality. So it recognizes the Akula and the Kula. So in the body, the Akula is the Sahasrara, whereas the Kula is below the Mooladhara. So the entire body is seen as a kind of a microcosm, reflecting the macrocosmic reality. So one aspect about Kula is the emphasis on the Panchamakaras, Matsya, Mamsa, Madhya, Mudra, and Maithuna. So they were directly used as such, or they were replaced by certain Pratinidhi Dravyas as they are known. Pratinidhi means that a representation. Say, for example, the Madhya was replaced by coconut water, something like that. So these 5 items were seen as the means of following a process to overcome this objective sphere of reality. So they were not to be, or they should not be confused or considered to be for self-gratification. The Panchamakaras were not recommended or they were not prescribed to be used for any self-gratification. Okay, but as in any place, when the corruption sets in into the system, it is the system which gets uh, uh, no the entire blame. But there is very clear injunctions within the Shastras about how to use the Panchamakaras. So, okay. So, the Kula as a path advocates the use of the Panchamakaras. What are the most important agamas of the Kula tradition? Siddha Yogeshwari, Rudrayamala, and Kularnava Tantra. So, normally the Tantric path, when we speak of, refers to this Kula tradition of the Kashmir Shaivism. So it tries to use these Panchamukaras, okay, as sacred tools, okay, to transcend one's experience. So the third school, the most important school, is the Spanda. Spandanam means to vibrate, to pulsate. So it formed it contributed to the philosophical outline of the Trika to a very great extent. So the word Spanda as such can be taken to understand pulsation, a dynamic aspect of consciousness. So here in our system, the Supreme Shiva is not static. Even though he has the Icha Jnana, it is this Kriyatmakata, okay, this dynamism that differentiates the Shiva of the Agamas from the Upanishadic Brahman concept, from the Advaita of the Shankara, because from the other schools of thought such as Vishtadvaita and others, they have no issues because they believe in the personalized aspect of Brahman to be Mahavishnu, okay, endowed with activity as a main thing. But the Shiva of the Agamas is endowed with this supreme dynamism, and this dynamism is something innate. Okay, so this is the supreme ichha, the urge to manifest, which results in the dynamism in the world which is created. So it says that the process is explained like this: the Parashiva uh, wished to manifest, and that wish or that supreme ichha is called as the Spanda. And when he decided to manifest, then he manifested himself into this many. Many is manifested himself into this reality which we see as many. Okay, so Spanda as a Shastra, um, the, the foundation teachers of Spanda Shastra is Acharya Vasugupta, to whom the Shiva Sutras were revealed. So Shiva Sutra is considered as Agama, as a revealed text, not a composed text by Acharya Vasugupta. And we know the story wherein he receives this instruction in his dream. Acharya Vasugupta. Shiva reveals himself in his dream, asks him to go to a place which is now called as Shankarpal, and he would find the Shiva Sutras inscribed in the stone. So he goes there and he receives the entire Shiva Sutras, and he teaches to his disciple Bhatta Kallata. Okay, and Kallata comes up with the Spanda Karika, so which is considered to be the seminal text of the Spanda school. So while explaining what Spanda is, Acharya Abhinavagupta has given several detailed explanation. I have just taken two for the sake of brevity of time. So in Paratrishika or Trimshika, he says, Spandanam cha kinchit chalanam chamatkaratmika uchchalata spanda vachyate. That is, it should not be understood or misunderstood as a normal movement. But Spanda is a kind of an chamatkara. So what is chamatkara? Once again, chamatkara is a technical term in the Trika Siddhanta. Okay, and not the sense of wonder by which it is normally understood. Yes, it is in the worldly expression, but here chamatkara is something which is the delight of consciousness, the Ananda Shakti's manifestation. Okay, that is the Spandana. So it is a revelation, self-revelation. Okay, or Uchchalanam. Uchchalanam means flashing of consciousness. So it is the potentiality, okay, of Chit to manifest. So that is the Spanda. And to see Spanda in everything is the highest goal of is liberation as per the school. So Spanda is not physical motion, whether it's physical, emotional, or anything, but it is that divine vimarshanam. Vimarshanam is that reflective awareness. So, reflective awareness of the supreme consciousness as possessing the dynamic free will to manifest itself. So, that is called as the Spanda. Again, in Ishvara Pratyabhijna Vimarshini, Acharya Abhinavagupta explains Spanda as the self, okay, with its innate dynamism, manifesting or appearing as many. So that is the Spanda. The Spanda is explained, the word Spanda is explained by Acharya Kshemaraja, okay, as synonymous with the Vimarshana, as Parashakti, because Shakti is the Vimarshana. Swatantriya, absolute freedom of Shiva. Aishwarya, the lordship of Shiva. Kartrutva, the supreme doership of agency of Shiva. Spuratta, okay, the vibrant flashing, the essence of everything, the Sara, and Hridaya, the heart of existence. So these are some of the terms by which Spanda is explained by Acharya Kshemaraja. And like I said, after Shiva Sutras, Spanda Karika is the most important text, and it is alluded by both Acharya Kshemaraja, by Acharya Abhinavagupta multiple times throughout their work. So normally what Acharya Kshemaraja will do is, when explaining, for example, in the Shiv Sutra commentary, he will explain the meaning of that particular sutra. Then he will give one reference from one agamic source. Then he will give a similar allusion from Spanda Karika to show how Spanda Karika is speaking in the same voice as the Mula Agama or the original Agama is speaking. So regarding the Spanda Karika, 4 commentaries, Spanda Nirnaya and Spanda Sandoha. Spanda Sandoha is a short, and it doesn't cover the entire text, but it sets a kind of an theme for what Acharya Kshemaraja wants to expand. Okay, so Spanda Nirnaya is a shorter commentary. Spanda Sandoha is a much larger explanation, but it is not complete. Apart from these two, we have Spanda Vivriti by Bhatta Ramakantha and by Utpala Vaishnava, which is Spanda Pratipika.